Welcome back to episode 6 of DoubleCommaDreams. In this episode, we talk about a bunch of interesting stuff, of which I've gotten written down on my notepad right here. The first thing that we talk about is a secret Mediavine community and how you can't even join it if you want to. That's around halfway through the episode. Another thing we talk about is how I'm going to be creating a content creation business that's hopefully going to make me $1 million, but we'll see in a couple of years. The third thing that we're going to be talking about is about building in public and whether you should build in public or you shouldn't, plus the pros and cons of building something like a niche website in public. If you want to learn about those three things, plus some other stuff that we kind of just got on like a side tangent of explaining, continue watching this video. Hopefully you enjoy it, and let's dig in. You can go ahead. We are live.
Oh, sweet. So what we were just talking about, so I don't do an intro at the beginning?
No, we just like dive in.
Okay, we might have to cut this part out.
Nah, it's fine. By the way, I need to figure out this present button here, share screen. I'm going to try to share my screen with what I wanted to start with. Let's see, Chrome tab, episode 6. So,
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah, that is nice. I love how it shows both of us and then the image over there. So I saw this on I saw this on Twitter a couple days ago, and I sent it to you. Was this what you felt like when you were looking in the GA4?
Literally, when I first started, I was like, I will not give up. I will do this. And then, like, it wasn't registering hits. It wasn't doing anything. And I'm like, I'm so done with this damn thing right now.
Oh my goodness. I have not even attempted to understand GA4. I messed around with it a little bit, and then I'm like, this is way too confusing for me right now. So I don't know. They're definitely moving to it. Like, they're going to be shutting down the universal one here soon. I think it's actually, I say here soon.
July 2023.
Yeah, so like 8 months from now. But that'll come up quicker than we think. But I was thinking about this. You mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. You mentioned that about going through a GA4 course. And I was thinking about this. I was like, because this tweet had been like retweeted a bunch of times, like thousands of times, which it was pretty funny. I'm a fighter, not a quitter. Me on day 5. I am resigning. But it was retweeted like thousands of times. And I was like, that means there's thousands of people who felt exactly like we did trying to figure it out. I still haven't figured it out, so I can't say trying. But what that means is that there is an opportunity out there for someone to clearly explain how GA4 works and how to get it to do what the old version used to do, like how you use the old version, whether that be a course or a video series or whatever it is. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's like a big opportunity right now? I haven't looked at it at all to see if there are even like courses out there that teach this.
It could be an opportunity for someone who understands it better. Like, I couldn't go through and be like, this is how this works. It would take time to develop that confidence to teach someone a little bit and like how it works. Like, I can go through and explain like this button does this button does this, but like the intricacies of it, I don't think I could create a course. Now, I would buy a course on it. Like, please teach me all the ins, the outs, how to look up my blog on it, all these different things.
That's what I was really interested in. I was like, I would almost pay a couple $100 just to learn how to master GA4, and knowing that there's thousands of other people out there that are really frustrated with this, like, it'd be a really easy sell. Like, you just had to like offer it to them and they'll be like, oh, I'll pay $97 or $47 or $300, whatever it is, to be able to understand it. And I was like, I was just thinking about that when I saw this meme. I laughed at it for a little bit, and then I was like, this actually means that it's a big problem for a lot of people.
It's really hard seeing problems that you're like, I know I could solve, but you're like, I'm not at that problem yet. I have my own problem I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I'm also not suggesting that we should work on this problem at all, because I still don't understand GA4.
Which actually starts us up into our next topic, because starting other things. TJ, the other day, I was on a little bit of a vacation, and he goes, I have this grand idea that you can join with me if you want. And I used to think that I was the starter in our relationship, but now I think it has turned the other way around. You can explain more, Theodore.
All right, I didn't realize my monitor was right here. I didn't realize it was so close. I would have fixed that before, but no biggie. So yeah, the reason that I had this idea, and by the way, the idea is to start, if you've ever heard of passion posts or hands-off publishing or any of those things where you go to, you give them money and then they give you WordPress articles, like they do the research and everything and write them. My idea was basically to start one of those, but the goal would be that, so right now I'm spending a decent amount of money on content. And it's like, instead of paying them, why don't I just pay something that I create that can then, after I'm done with it, like after I'm done buying articles from this new company or new project or whatever, then someone else can like come in and buy articles from them too. So basically, to put it in like simple words, I would be creating my own version of passion posts or hands-off publishing. And the reason I came up with that idea is I was perusing Twitter. And actually, this is a whole nother topic that I can explain in a minute. But I was asking a whole bunch of people whether they thought it was a good idea to build in public or not. Like, is it a good idea for me to launch my domain on Twitter to tell other people, hey, here's my website, I'm building it? And I got a bunch of interesting answers. But someone said something along the lines of like, what is the risk and reward? Like, what's the reward of letting other people know that domain? And I started thinking about it. And I was like, even in the broad space of DoubleCommaDreams of this podcast, what is the reward? What is the risk of me sharing the other projects that I'm working on? And then what's the reward? And so the reward is obviously like, if we get more YouTube views, if we get more Spotify plays, like it'll eventually like come back as money. But then also maybe a little bit of fame. So like, not like in a bad way of fame, but like if we want to meet someone, we're like, hey, we run this podcast. And so like, that's another, like one of the rewards of if you start a podcast and you launch it and people like it and stuff. But I was also thinking like, if I ever wanted to start something, and I released my domain, my projects that I was working on, and I was showing people that I was working on them, they'd be able to look at it and be like, oh, he knows what he's doing. And then I started thinking, what could I launch that would be that? And so I came up with 3 ideas here. The first one is a website audit. So basically you pay me X dollars and I'll go through and look at your website and be like, change this, change this, change this. This looks great. Here's something else you can do to increase performance. And that would be really easy. Like I could spend 2 or 3 hours on it and probably charge from $150 to $1,000, like depending on however many, like if a ton of people are wanting it, you just increase the price. If not as many people are wanting it, you just lower it. And that'd be an easy, like starting at $30 an hour. What are your thoughts on that, by the way? I've rambled for a little bit.
On the website audit?
Yeah. Which we've talked about this before. Like even you could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting, and you have more experience with larger sites, so I think it'd be more beneficial for like you have that expertise in that. Now, if I was like I'll audit your website, I'm like, well, Ahrefs says you have 4 404s, so you better fix those. So yeah, I think it really depends on your expertise, which you fit that bill. And I think the other 2 projects or other one, like I could fit more into, but you can keep going.
Yeah, and a lot of the audits is going to be like an automated process anyway, of like just running an Ahrefs audit, checking HTTPS, seeing what their page speed load time is. But yeah, that was idea number 1. The second idea was the content creation, which was like, you come to me, pay me $50 and I'll give you an article. And then do that on a much higher scale. So pay me $500 and I'll give you 10 articles, $5,000 and I'll give you 100 articles. And then obviously a small portion of that would be profit for the business, but everything else would be like running the business. So a lot of the projects that I'm running right now aren't actually businesses. Like if I took myself out of them, they wouldn't keep growing. And so the idea of this would be for me to learn how to grow something that if when I leave, it's still an income producing business that helps its customers. And so that's kind of like, I was intrigued by that because I haven't really built anything like that before. It's always been me at the front being like a influencer or something like that. And then also, obviously, it's kind of something I'm already doing. Like I'm already paying passion posts, hands-off publishing, like multiple thousands of dollars a month. I might as well just train my own writers on how to do that and how to do it better. And then that way I get the savings of whatever the profit of those companies are getting. I'm like keeping that as a saving, like on content creation. And then the third thing was like, this was long-term thinking. This is like 2 or 3 years out. If we had 100,000 YouTube subscribers, or we had an email list or something, and I was like, hey, I'm launching a backlink service, to where like you pay so much money for so many backlinks, it would be really easy to sell that. Which in my own like journey of paying for backlinks, what I have found is these companies are raking in cash for backlinks that are not that good. I may make a video in the future of like explaining like I spent $1,000 here. Here are the links I got, and here's what I paid for each link. You decide for yourself if this is a good link or not. And what I found is like those links really aren't that good. I probably should share some with you like behind the scenes. I think you would really be interested in seeing them. But I'm like, these companies are making bank on backlinks, and this is probably why there's so many people in the industry are like, don't care about backlinks, because when you are paying for backlinks, like 90% of the backlinks I've paid for in the past couple months been poop. They do not, they're bad backlinks, like PBNs, spam websites and stuff, and the DRs are really high, but the pages that they're on do not matter, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Are you? We had a little conversation about this. Like, are you doing this just for another project, like a business? Like, are you excited about this? Because I was like, we can talk about this in a little bit, but I'm writing 3 articles a day at the moment. Like, I've got a pretty good setup of like what a good article can look like now, and like I can add that to that expertise and like add that to the process of content creation. But like, are you excited about it? I think I mentioned that like it'd be cool to have something that you were both excited and was able to put time towards in the very beginning, compared to being like, because I think you mentioned that you weren't 100% committed to it, which I was like,
Yeah, like the other projects that I'm working on right now, I would kind of have to shut them down to focus on this. But in terms of my intentions, so they could kind of be divided. Like one of them is like, I want a business that I could either sell or a business that runs without me. So like I said, those other businesses I'm running, it's technically one business, but the income streams are dependent upon me. So if I leave a year later, like the traffic is just going to slowly die. Maybe not so much as the blog, but like the other things, the YouTube stuff, the memberships and stuff like that, like it's just going to keep decaying. And so I want a business that like grows without me. And maybe that's like just me putting a right person in the place to grow the business to where it's not me. But I really want to like develop that trait. And I think this would be a great place to develop that trait, because it would be me starting it. And then as time goes along, like I'm starting a service of something. Hold on one second. There's a spider. It's like the 3rd spider. I need to spray or something. But where was I?
Creating a service that...
Oh yeah. So like with the content creation and the backlinks, like those are things I need. And so I could go out to these companies that are making a profit on them, or I could figure out what they're doing, do it myself, and then save the profit. So let's say Passion Post is charging me $50 an article. I could, instead of paying them $50, I could figure out how they're doing it for $40, because I know they're making a $10 profit. And then I could just basically, instead of paying them, I could like have my own service that is like much cheaper. And then in the long term, I could turn that into an income opportunity where I charge other people $50. And obviously you want some, what do they call it? A competitive edge, something to be a little bit better than Passion Post or Hands Off Publishing. And not that I'm going to be a competitor of them by any means. I think I mentioned when we were chatting about it earlier that I would focus more on the like premium side. Like I would focus on like, and not that Hands Off Publishing and Passion Post aren't premium, but they're definitely, that's like 4 cents a word. So I would be charging almost probably double that, but I would be like, it would be like quality content, like really good stuff that like you're going to rank in a month, even if your DR is low. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's definitely like you said, it's definitely in the back of my mind. This is not something I'm creating right now. It's not something I'm doubling down on.
Yeah. And I've noticed that I think when we had our video of starting things new, and I think this probably would have been a really good topic to hit on, but like understanding what you want to start and the effort you're putting into starting it. Because like my blog is growing because I'm putting a ton of effort into it right now. Like it's everything I'm doing. Like, are those services going to have the same amount of growth with you having all these other projects?
Yeah. So you mean like if I were to put 2 hours per week compared to like 30 hours per week growing it?
Yeah. Like how much are you like how much would you be committed to those projects? Because I think that's what interests me in working with you. Like this podcast is just fun. Like we just sit and talk about things. Like it's something I'm coming to. It's like, hey, well, we get to it when we get to it. Like we have some fun conversations. But like you mentioned, like get a name, get an LLC, get it going. Like that's something that like if I was working with someone else, I'd be like, you have these skills, I have these skills. Let's level head together. Which we've worked on stuff in the past, and of course you can be the person bringing in the money if they have the skill set, but you got to have those different priorities and conversations, of course.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what you're saying is if we were to partner on this, we would want to find a good way to create that partnership. I did mention that like creating an LLC and everything like really early. Not that I would want to do it super early, but like on paper, I would want to make it look like so that my business was paying this content creation business. And I would do that so that it would be really easy to look at that business and be like, it's making money with me as the only customer. To whereas if I'm paying it $1,000 and it's like not making the like really good content, then, you know, I might get 6 months in and be like, you know what, I probably should have just paid Passion Post this money or Hands Off Publishing this money or just hired a writer for this money.
Just on that quick topic, I'm not sure what business loans looks like. I haven't really delved on that. But if you show a 12-month spread of making $3,000 a month, and you're like, hey, I'd like this amount of money to try to grow it in ads and stuff. They're like, oh, you're already making that much this whole year. Here's what we can give you to grow off of it. Like, that'd be interesting. That's a good idea. It would be
interesting to see like what kind of loan offers you could get. I guess the thing that I would appreciate about that is that the loan interest rate would probably be less than 20%. And on all the blogs that I've been working on total, what I've earned is more than 20% per year based on what I've put in. So that's why I like taking out a loan would make sense for me.
And it seems people are getting tired of writing their own content. Like it's really easy just to say, hey, I want 10 articles. Like that's definitely a plus side of it, but there are other services that offer that, so you can't always look at that.
Speaking of that, I've actually noticed there to be a large amount of people that are doing that. And the way that I've seen it is on Flippa. And there's another website called Motion Invest, but I've been scrolling through them and I'm like, I look at some of these websites that I'm interested in, but not really. And I'm like, what they're doing is they're spending $4,000 on content, putting it on the website, waiting a year, and then going, this was a flop, and then selling it on Flippa. And I when I look at those websites, I'm like, there's so many optimizations they could be doing to double their income. Like if they just made the website load faster, Google would like it more. If they optimize this, like if they capitalize this title, it would probably get more clicks.
What if you just went in and bought and just flipped websites?
There's actually a guy on Twitter that's been doing that. Have you seen him?
The
website flip guy?
Yeah, I think that might actually be the correct name.
Which I've got some stuff to talk about that a little bit, but
yeah, you're good. Shoot ahead. If it looks like, so my camera's right here. So if I'm like looking down this way, I'm actually looking towards Theodore. Let me see if I can change my settings to see if it looks the other way. Mirror it. Oh, so now like if I'm looking at you, it looks like I'm looking at you. There we go.
Oh, that's cool.
Does it look better? Like I'm actually looking at you?
The screen did not change to me, so you look the same.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
So this tweet, it's probably really small right now.
Can you zoom in any?
Not really. Well, I'll figure this out later. But it says, oh, this was about the Mediavine. There was like a Mediavine retreat, and there was a guy that went there, and he was noticing what he noticed about all the other people that were there. And as you can see, this person says, good point. Frequently those Mediavine Premiere, which by the way, did you know about Mediavine Premiere?
Mm-mm.
So there's Mediavine. I think it's Mediavine and then Mediavine. Hold on one second. I got to get this for cinematic effect. There's like Mediavine and then there's Mediavine Pro, and you don't get to join Mediavine Pro. They ask you once you hit 100,000 a month or 100,000 a year, I think is what it is. Mediavine Pro. Yeah. Once you hit $100,000 a year, they're like, hey, you can come in. And then there's Mediavine Premiere, which they don't even tell you how much you have to make, but it's invite only. And the reason I bring that up is because once you hit Mediavine Premiere, I think you get either invited to or you're able to come to this special event. And then that's what this tweet is about. But what they said is they realized a lot of these creators at this Mediavine Premiere place, this getaway or whatever they called it, they had a lot of lower priority but higher ROI activities. And I really like this. Video, social media, legit, EAT, personal branding. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talk about these niche sites they set up with 100 posts and they just post them and then wait for money to come in. To whereas what they were explaining in this post, that the people that were doing it is like, what's a good example? You know what scroll sawing is?
No.
So my grandpa does scroll sawing. So take a piece of wood and then like cut an image out of it, right?
Okay.
That's a big community. And so like they'll just double down on that for 10 years. And I think the average website age, like the minimum was like 4 years. So the people in this club have been blogging for at least 4 years. And so like they noticed that a lot of the people there had like, they'd been doing this for like 10 years. They had like YouTube videos around this stuff, which is a lot of stuff that like, that's super high commitment. If you're making a video about something, you're not just paying a blogger to do it. Like you're probably doing it yourself, which in my case, that's like that's like how I grew my channels. Social media, which a lot of these websites, other than my main one, none of my other websites have social media. And same for you too, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like maybe we need to think about that a little bit. Facebook, what? Pinterest, maybe.
More shareable content.
Yeah. And then they mentioned legit EAT, which is like expertise and trustworthiness. And so I've been thinking about how I can implement that in my website, which I think you have some ideas on how you can do it on your website as well, right?
Yeah. We'll see if that actually happens because I'm pursuing a different avenue on the website, just different topic clusters, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. And so on a lot of these niche websites, what they do is they AI generate some face and then say that they're an expert. To whereas some of these really highly paid blogs, they don't even call them niche sites. They're just like, they're bloggers and they make like 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month. What they're seeing is that they're basically like, they're not like creating AI authors. Like they're actually them. They have a degree in whatever it is they're teaching. I almost said my niche. And then the last thing they mentioned was personal branding, which this is really interesting. Do you know the Epic Gardening guy?
Mm-mm.
The guy that you told me about. Well, you didn't tell me about this, but you mentioned it to me. The guy that got the $17 million funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy has done some personal branding. Like he's the first guy that came to my mind when I thought of like a highly paid blogger that has like personal branding, which I probably have done a little bit of personal branding, but not really. This podcast itself is probably the most personal branding I've done. But I really like this. I'm not sure if you can see it on screen, so I'll read it. But this second person down here, this Ryan Kane said, I'm guessing the fact that these Mediavine mega bloggers tended to start as passion projects and then are often the face of their brand helps them build an excellent brand across multiple channels, which then turns them into absolute juggernauts over time. And so I was thinking about that. Is that the path that you want to take? The same path that some of these like other really big bloggers have taken?
Yeah, that's we've talked about it a ton on like my ambitions for my site is like the website I'm building isn't so much like let it set, come back, revisit. It's like, hey, I want to turn this into like a brand. Like I want videos around these topics. I want a podcast around it. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to do. Just right now I'm trying to just get a little bit of traffic to get some funding a little bit to then build onto more stuff, which could be the wrong way, but we're working through it, figuring out, seeing what works.
Yeah,
but the goal is really put out content and then start, because I really enjoy the niche I'm in. Like I enjoy the topics. So it's like trying to learn enough and start getting confident enough that I can explain it better to people and then really start bumping into like some more video content, which I need to be better. So I'm doing 3 posts a day at the moment.
I've been keeping
days. I'm not going to say a day.
I've been keeping your word count. If you want a graph, I've been keeping track of your word count since like August, I think. If you want a graph of your word count, I would love to share. I was going to wait for another episode to share it with you.
Is it like...
I don't want to explain it. You'll have to see it in a picture. I'll show you maybe next podcast.
Okay.
But you'll love it.
Okay, sweet.
But yeah, I do realize that a lot of these highly paid bloggers are all like, that's the only thing they do. They're not running 10 different websites, which is kind of the case how I grew my first blog. And then now I'm trying to grow another blog in the pet industry. Like I almost feel like maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I should be all in on the pet industry if that's what I want to grow. What are your thoughts on that? You think I should double down or you think I can grow a couple things at once?
TJ, we've had a couple fire talks about this.
Fire talks?
We visit each other. So we used to live in the same town. Now we live in separate towns. So we visit each other and talk about business, talk about life, etc. And we've had plenty of good conversations on like having so many different like
opportunities.
Yeah, like Do you feel that, I know you're like, I have these 5 outlets of income. Like, here's one website, YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're trying to build something else. Like, do you have enough setup over here where it's successful enough that you can just leave and then move on to this one, put all your attention in? So, like, do you have a team behind this that you could trust for 6 months to still grow your current project, to then move on to this one for 6 months, put all your attention in, build a team, trust this one to grow because you have the team behind it, and then move on to this one? Or are you at the middle ground right now where you're like, I need a little bit of attention here because everything still needs a little bit of work, still need attention here, still need attention here?
I see what you're saying, and I 100% agree. I feel like what I've done right now is I have not built businesses. I've built highly paid jobs for me. So like you just mentioned, if I start leaving this one and I go to this one, then this one makes more money, but this one stops growing. And what I need to do, and maybe this is why I want to do the content thing, because I feel like it'd be super easy to like put this in place compared to like a YouTube channel or something. At least in terms of hiring writers, it's way easier than like a narrator and stuff like that. But yeah, when I go to these don't necessarily stop growing, but they don't necessarily decline, but they stop growing. So it's not like you leave it alone, you come back and you're like, this thing got way bigger than I thought. I guess maybe the blog has kind of been like that, but I've also been putting capital into that. So
are you trying to think of it from I think it was on Twitter that I saw some guy was like, I'm trying to think about these businesses as an investor standpoint. Like, do I have the right people in for my investment to keep making the most of its money? Like, or is it like I'm the operator, which we've talked about?
I'm definitely the operator.
So I think, and like, I'm nowhere at this point, but this is like what my goal is, to like build this team. Like, I've seen other channels do it. Do you see that spit come out a little bit?
No, you're good.
Oh, I spit a little bit.
I'm just thinking about this talk though.
This is, I do like this a lot better than our last couple ones. It's a lot more fluid.
Mm-hmm.
But so like, have a COO. Like, I would love to have a chief operating officer for all of this. Be like, you oversee everything. You find talent. Like, here's 2 people who can do a podcast around these topics. Make sure they're doing well. Like, you oversee them. Like, I'm here for like, what bigger vision do we have? But I'm fine with putting in the work right now to get to that point, because that's a larger goal. Like, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, like you don't want to be in the same season for 20 years.
Yeah, and like, I want to be able to have something that grows and has people behind it wanting it to grow after I leave.
That makes sense. Would you call that an exit?
I wonder how that would work, because if I was at, say, a blog and a YouTube channel, maybe if I sold it, but like, I wonder how
that's what's usually called an exit.
I wonder if I could have controlling interest in it. That's not the way. I don't know how I'd do it. I need to think on that.
Like, you're like, when I said exit, most people think of like selling it, but what I meant was like you exiting the company from working in it. Like, you still own it.
Oh yes. So like, I would enjoy just being in the background, being like, oh, here's some ideas. Like, my mind's so sporadic sometimes. I'm like, oh, here's a cool podcast mindset. Here's a cool this. But you have all these like really good people in these categories, like building that, and you're just like overseeing it. And I might not be that person. Like, I do want to be honest with myself. Like, if I build this up enough, like, I might not be that person to get it to the next level because I'm not there. Like,
yeah, that seems to be one of my,
not that way.
One of my ceilings is like, you just identified it. Like, you put it in pretty clear terms of like that. I need to figure out how to grow some of these other businesses I have. So when I come back to them after 6 months, I'm like, oh, this got bigger. Like, who do I need to put there? Even if it's just like paying someone or finding the right person to pay to grow that, because it's also like, it's going to be hard to grow if I don't have people growing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a false belief, but
yeah, it's hard to like explain that to people when I'm not at that point yet. Like, they're like, oh, you've got 3 visits last month. Like, there could be better ways of doing it. This is just how I have seen other people talk, and be like, I do want to try to be like that. And I think if you can build up a good team behind all your stuff, like, it gives you a really good opportunity to then sell it to someone.
Yeah.
I think I just turned off. Oh, there we go. I as much as I would say I would love to do the same thing for the next 50 years, that's not where my personality lies. Like, I would enjoy trying other things. So, like, I would love to create a system so someone could be like, oh, you have a COO, you have all these writers. Like, I just need to come in and be a higher director. Like, here, let's try to head it here. Like, people try to sell that to someone.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, but that's another thing I need to think on more. It's not really set in stone there. Right now, I'm just focused on growing it and trying to create a brand. And that's something, this might curate some steam. I like niche sites, and I like the concept of niche sites. Like, you just build it, you let it sit, get traffic, it starts gaining money. Like, that's really an investor standpoint, I feel like, from everything. But I'm really interested in like the branding side of it. Like, how do we create something where it's like videos where, like, oh, I saw this on a Super Bowl ad, like Geico. I don't really know where I'm going. I'm kind of rambling there.
Though you almost inspire me in that, and like the couple of brands that I own, I would probably call them brands, although they're not really growing. But the pet website that I'm creating, I'm trying to turn that into a brand so that when people think like, oh, I don't want to share too much about it, which I guess if I post a video, I'm going to release it. But you know what I mean? Like, I want to turn it like, if I want like the right kind of dog food for my dog, this is where I want to go to get that information. And then also maybe even buy that dog food from that website, which that'll be like fulfillment on that side will be like probably more in the future. Which, speaking on that, you found a website that sells insurance, but it's making a buttload of money from the content side. At least if they have ads. I don't think they have ads because they're only selling insurance. But
yeah, they're competing with me on a couple keywords, and I'm like,
I'm glad I didn't say it.
What is this guy doing here?
They are ranking for keywords that have nothing to do with what they're selling.
I would say it, but it's close to my niche, so I don't want you guys going to look it up. Yeah, but if you think it's wild, it is wild. So
speaking of that, that's a great segue into our next topic, which is building in public. Unless you had something else to say. Is this good?
Try to escape the fate of being... I have never seen a...
What he's saying is, this tweet says, I've never seen a build in public project or product, which is just something where they, like, as they're building it, they're sharing with you what they're doing. With more than $10,000 per month revenue, escape the fate of being copied. So they're like almost all copied. I have a bunch of things that I would love to talk about this, but I want your ideas first.
I've mentioned my opinions on Twitter, and these build to copy little girls.
I love it. So yeah, this other guy sat down here says, why should you worry about being copied? I can buy a code complete clone of Airbnb for $25, which basically means you can buy the app of Airbnb, put your name on it, and have it up and running for $24. And he's basically saying Airbnb is not worried about me doing that. And that's because of the branding that Airbnb has. But then you can see down here, this guy did say, did I say I worry about it? But I have like a bunch of things I would love to say about this. Before I go into any specific topics, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think building in public is a good idea, a bad idea? And if it is a good idea, why haven't you shared your domain?
I think if you build in public, you should be ready for people to take your ideas. That guard needs to be let down. You need to be like, okay, like, I'm putting it out there. If someone takes it, I shouldn't complain about that. And if I put it out there and a better person does that, I need to accept that I can't do as well as him. Like, I can't execute as well as him. Like
this. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and say the product that we're thinking about. I don't know the exact names. Are you good with that?
Oh, the people on Twitter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
So
it's okay.
I forget who it was. Someone made it's basically a repository of a bunch of websites that have ads on them. Niche selector, niche finder. I think it's niche finder. Yeah. And then someone else came out with a very similar product and actually launched it days before the other one. Niche site something. I don't remember what it was. They're basically the same product with a few differences. I mean, when I say basically the same product, like this water bottle.
We're still seeing the same data, but they're giving it to you in different platforms.
Yeah, just different flavors. They're doing the same thing with different flavors. And I saw basically both of them complaining about the other person. which I think you only saw one person complaining. But
Yeah, I didn't see
speaking
the
of
other
that,
one, I don't believe.
when you build something like that and then you release it to the public, you can't complain about someone else taking your idea, which is probably why building in public is such like a topic for people to think about. Because if you are building something, someone else is going to be like, that's a good idea, I should do it, or I should do it better. So I had a few things to say about this. In terms of building in public, when it comes to niche websites, which is kind of the topic of this podcast, which I want to talk to you a little bit about, maybe changing the general topic. It's called DoubleCommaDreams, but mostly what we've talked about is a niche website. But in the future, I think we should branch out to reach a wider audience about other things. But anyways, when it comes to niche websites, when immediately as soon as you release your domain for other people to look at, specifically in the niche site community, I kind of came up with this stuff that you're going to have to worry about, which the first thing is spam backlinks. So if you're a competitor to me and I'm like, hey, I don't want you ranking, I can go buy 10,000 backlinks from Fiverr for $5 and maybe take you down. I have never tested that, but I've heard people say that you can do that. I'd actually be really curious if that works or if it doesn't work. But I know that there have been cases where backlinks have like knocked you down because they're like, oh, they're trying to up themselves. And in reality, it's the competitors paying for it. Another problem is with
dummy.
Yeah, wasted money. Another problem is that people are going to copy you, right? So if you're doing something and you're winning because you're so new at it, and you're winning because it's a tiny little secret niche that nobody else knows about, and someone else finds out about it and they're able to copy you and win, that's an issue. Like, this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit, was the moat. So if you're building in public, you got to be thinking a lot about the moat that you're building. So this could be an algorithm. This could be the code that you develop. This could be your branding, which branding is a huge moat. That's like the Airbnb thing I said earlier. You could make your own Airbnb software, but it's not Airbnb. It's not, doesn't roll off people's tongue. When they think about hotels for houses, they don't think of Airbnb, or they don't think of your app. So in terms of moat, I have a couple things listed here, but I don't want to share them because I don't want to prime you. What are your ideas on what could be a moat for a niche website?
That was such a moat. You could have a YouTube channel that takes. So, well, I'll keep it to the niche site area.
No, that was actually my first thing, was YouTube. Like,
because it takes a lot of time.
Everyone out there who has a niche website, it's like 1% of them makes a YouTube channel. And if you make a YouTube channel and your articles have that YouTube video and your YouTube video links to that article, Google goes, wow, they're putting a lot of effort into this brand. And I know that because I've done that.
Yeah, so YouTube channel, because not a lot of people are doing it. Better resource content. So there's a lot of, which we can talk about this. There's a lot of content out there that's just really created quickly and just tossed up to see if it ranks. And I don't think it ever goes back to be edited again. Like, a lot of people are in just the phase of content, which I can't speak for everyone. I haven't talked to higher earning bloggers on how they're going back and re-editing their content, but that's a moat.
That's a good one. So basically, like, unique content, like custom data content that takes time to put together.
Like I saw Fin Masters, they went through and spent like 60 grand on, it was an article I think shared on one of your tweets.
Yeah, like editing
60 grand on like surveys to like create a really good resourced article.
That's crazy.
I'm trying to think about, those are the only two that roll off the top of my head right now. What ideas did you have?
So one that I'm actually spending money on right now, today I spent $1,400 paying my artist for custom images. So custom illustrations, custom images. These are something that I guess AI could come in, but I've also tried some of the AI tools and like, they're not the best. So if I'm like, hey, can you create this image with this here that looks like this, especially like flowchart stuff, like graphs and stuff like that, AI is not the best at that right now. So what I'm doing is I'm creating this content in mass. I'm making a bunch of it. And hopefully, like, I think long-term it'll help with backlinks because people will use those images freely and then link back to my page. But it also helps the people scrolling through my page and learning. Like, if a website without images and a website with images, the website with images clearly wins, as long as the content isn't crap. So that's another thing, like YouTube, better content. which I guess better content kind of includes custom images. And then another thing that I thought about was high DR. So I was thinking about this because my DR is going up. And I was like, if someone were to copy my site and take all my keywords and then write articles that had an extra 500 words more than the articles that I have each, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would they beat me? And the answer, I was like, what would cause them to beat me? Well, they wouldn't, because I have custom images. I have a YouTube channel connected to it. And I also have high DR. So I already have a whole bunch of backlinks. And those were kind of the three that I came up with, which unique content is another good one.
Which I will say is a very good point, because there is a website with 3 posts outranking me at the moment because there's not a moat for me.
That's true. Time is another moat. So if you have a 10-year-old website,
what's up?
Yeah, if you have a 10-year-old website competing against a 3-month-old website, Google's going to trust a 10-year one more.
Well, not in this specific keyword, because I got knocked down to the second page. And he had 3 posts.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
That's why I was like, hey, look him up. He's kicking my ass right now.
I did. And then I was like, because even the domain that you told me to look up, I was like, this is kind of an interesting domain. Like, it's almost exact match. And I looked it up and I was like, Nico, there's like 3, I think it ranked for like maybe 4 or 5 in Ahrefs maybe. But then I checked their sitemap and I saw there was 3 posts. And I was like, this thing has 3 posts on it. Like, whoever created this website started and then stopped. Honestly, you could probably purchase them, which that is the next topic I want to talk about. Unless you want to keep going on this one, the moat.
No, you're good. I think what Google reward. Actually, I'm not gonna stay on that because that's just me talking, and I don't know the truth to that. I would assume that Google rewards hard work, and it seems like a lot of sites don't put in hard work. Like they're like, and this could be a whole Twitter thread on itself, which I feel like would be spicy. But I feel like it would be great to build a YouTube channel around it, to build a Reddit subreddit, anything along those sorts of
building a community.
Yeah, like long-term goals of it. But you can go on to the next topic. I know what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, so we were talking about buying websites, which is actually a strategy that I'm using to grow my pet website, where I have like one website and then I purchase a website and then point it here, move all the pages there. I purchase another website and then move it here, which is actually what was that website you mentioned earlier? Finmaster. That's what they did.
Oh yeah, that's what.
Purchased like 10 websites, by the way. That was really interesting.
Spent 120 grand, I think it was, on one website to acquire it.
And I have found success in this. Like that website, I will show you the Search Console if I can find a way to block the URL. I guess it doesn't really matter. But while I'm looking this up, what are your thoughts on 301 redirecting? Is this something that you would do? You would find another blog in your niche and then buy it and 301 redirect it versus just hiring out those topics?
It depends. I think if the content was already ranking a little bit, it'd be better than buying it and then tossing it off the website and then waiting for it to rank. But I've also seen a couple comments that are like, it doesn't really make a difference until your site's a higher DR. Like sometimes it can mess it up redirecting into it. But I don't know. I've never tried it. It sounds great to buy a site that's already ranking and making money, though. Sounds a lot easier.
So you can see right here, it says 2 of your other sites are moving. So I've already 301 redirected them and then told Google Search Console that they're moving. And then look at that traffic, like immediate traffic.
Holy cow.
It's working great.
How much is it producing a day now?
Producing money-wise?
Yeah.
Like $3, $4.
That's not bad.
I'll share it in my income report, but it's not. I'm hoping it does better long term. Is what I'll say there.
I wonder if you could do better off affiliates off of pet items.
Actually, a lot of the websites that I've been seeing on Flippa and Motion Invest, it's like a few of them, half the income is affiliate, half is ad. So that is probably something.
Could you message Purina and be like, hey, I'll sell your dog food if you give me 10%?
That's definitely an opportunity. I think people do that. I don't know if it's Purina, but
yeah, just
Chewy definitely. I've seen some websites that are like, this is how much money I make from Chewy. So
yeah. I think it's also really interesting is breaking past the niche site thought and like being like, how can I build this bigger? Like Finmasters. I'm really a big fan of how Finmasters is doing his stuff. because it seems to be that he's really trying to build brands out of his things. Like, I forgot what else he built, but like I look at his site and I'm like, this guy's like,
it looks nice.
Building a lot more than just a niche site, which it'd be cool to talk to him. I wonder if we can reach out to him. We should reach out to him and be like, hey, you want to come talk to us?
That'd be a cool episode. But I posted, I need to be better about sharing my Twitter stuff. You can see everything on my screen right now because that's reflective. But what I did was I asked, I'm growing my website on Twitter by buying related websites and 301 redirecting them. And I said, has anyone else had problems growing this way? I got a ton of responses. One person said not to do it because if it can go really south if you abuse it. So I'm not sure what abusing means. I'm not sure if that means like 10 websites redirecting. Google's like, that's bad. Don't do that. And then in the case of FinMasters, they've done it and it's worked. I can't say it's worked well. It looks like it's working well when I looked them up on Ahrefs. Some other people say don't go past a certain number. Some people are saying just don't do it. I'm reading right now, so.
1 second. I'm going to try to find that one. Oh, that was loud. And see if I can just share it.
And also the website flip. We mentioned this earlier. The guy that buys and sells websites, he has a 301 redirect service. I looked it up. I know enough about WordPress how to do this myself, but what he charges
is how much?
I'm trying to find it now so I don't miss. 1 second. Products, maybe? Here we go.
TJ, you've been tweeting a lot here recently.
I've tried. I don't know how to grow Twitter. I literally, that one question where I said, has anyone done 301 redirects? That is my best tweet so far, and I've done some interesting tweets.
Yeah, I was trying. Did you delete that one? Because I was trying to find it.
No, it should just be on my Twitter thing.
I don't know. Yeah, no, the guy who owns FinMasters replied to that, thanking one guy to, thanking from sharing his article, because I read his article. I get a lot of really insightful content. Like, I'd love to sit down with him. Man, I wish I could find your tweet.
I wish I could find how much this 301 redirect service cost.
Yeah.
I think it was like $1,800. And I was like,
really?
I spent $1,800 on the website itself to redirect it. So I'm not going to spend another $1,800
for someone to redirect it.
Yeah.
Let me, I wish I could find it.
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, here it is. I found it. Oh, I own.
Slow your website.
We often did this just. Yeah, it's at Hacking Life 7. I want to reach out to him. We should reach out to him. I am very interested in his thought process now.
Now I gotta find him.
Yeah.
By the way, you commented on that 301 redirect question tweet.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if that's why it did well.
I was like
he jump started
it. Which I'll jump into another topic real quick, just not to get this thing too lagged behind here. Theodore came over to my house the other day. I've been trying to get this site monetized, right? So we changed a couple things, and let me show you a reveal. You'll be able to learn a little bit more on the income report coming in 3 days. But look at this. So as you can see, it's like, I'm posting like once every other week, once a day. It's very sporadic. And then TJ comes over, helps me with a bunch of stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm doing 3 posts a day. So I published 10 posts in 3 days. And look at that back end.
Also, I think some of the
that's
things
like when a good night keeps going good. Actually,
that's we should also mention some of the things that we changed as well. So you've added posts, but actually, I know you can't see it on screen, which it's really nice you put our logo down there. I appreciate that. That looks nice. But are you able to see all that new impressions, is that only to the new web pages or old ones as well?
That's old ones as well, I believe, but also new ones, because the new one got to the first page and had like
Ridiculous.
200 impressions the first day.
That's great. So, do you want to talk about some of the things we did? Actually, you can. Yeah. You want to go for the lead for this one?
I'll talk more about it in my income report, but basically we went through, added alt tags to images. TJ ran an Ahrefs site explorer to see what all was messing. I had a bunch of, because I use GeneratePress, so I had a bunch of links within my social links at the bottom that I didn't put www. Or was it HTTPS? One of those two, but it was redirecting back to that article and caused a ton of errors. Didn't have a privacy policy, terms of use. Hopefully this doesn't discredit everything I've said in the last 40 minutes.
No, I even said in that tweet that I sent out, I was like, nobody likes doing that. Oh my goodness, I just found an easy win for you, by the way. We should have included this in the audit, but yeah, you're mostly right. We did some other stuff. We updated the post date.
I had a lot of H1s.
We fixed all the H1s. You had like 3 H1s on some pages, 4 on another.
Then some thin content that we added words to.
Yeah, we fixed the thin content because you had 2 posts that were like under 200 words, and we were like, just get rid of those. And then the other ones we increased.
Yeah, but I woke up to that and I was like, wow, that's an increase. That's a big.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what the next month holds, especially if you keep doing 3 a day. That's gonna be a good month.
Yeah.
By the way, the thing that I told you that we should have checked on the audit was the page speed like how fast it loads. Your website does not pass it, which this is a really easy thing to fix if you know what you're doing. And I've worked on the websites I've worked on. I mean, I made 12 grand one month, so I better figure it out. So I've got it figured out now. I could get you up to past 90. But
do it.
I didn't realize this page speed thing shows you SEO as well. My Chrome just said that, hey, we can't load this page, so I'll do that sometime when we're not on the stream. But it actually, page speed just gave me your site a SEO score, which was interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, no, as you can see, our efforts are paying off. So the goal is just to expedite it as long as I can and just keep going, which I would love. I think once I hit 100 posts, I might go back and make YouTube videos for it, make a little bit longer. I would love at 100 posts to get a system of another writer down so that they can create more posts while I'm going back and adding the moat around the posts. So that one pillar isn't stopped just because I'm trying to build up another pillar so that they just keep going up together. Yeah. Which I still work a full-time job. I'd be really interested in hiring some. I have extra income when I go back to work. I'm still in a cast for a bit more weeks, so I still have a lot of time to add a lot of posts.
I love the bright orange.
Yeah, thank you. I added actually, no, we'll skip that.
I should have signed it when I was down.
You should have. I get a new one the second I get a cast change, but that's for the wedding. But yeah. So will have extra income to hire a writer part-time and not charge them by word, but try to find a writer per hour and be like, hey, work 20 hours a week, but the days you work, try to produce this many pieces of day. So, but then I can go back and be like, oh, I want to write a video about this. I want to add more images to this. All those different moat type actions.
Yeah, were you inspired by the editor that I have? Because I had her writing for a while, and then I was like, hey, do you want to go back through some of these posts, go from 1,400 words to 1,800 words, add an image here, add a YouTube video here, fix the titles, snippets. And when I was telling her to do that, I was like, paying by the word count isn't going to work. I got to pay her hourly. Is that kind of like why you're wanting to do the hourly switch, is just because there's going to be more things that's easier to track?
Yeah, and it seems like they might make a little bit more effort to do it quicker, like hourly. So like by word, they can be like, oh, I'll have it next week. I'm in Bali.
That's true. That actually is the opposite, because if you pay them $20 an hour, it's like I make more money if I spend 4 hours on this article than if I spend 1 hour. So you'll have to find a way to like prioritize, to incentivize.
Maybe if I set goals, like, hey, like they'll know, be like, hey, you didn't finish this article in the allotted time for 6 articles. Like, I'm gonna have to let you go. Like, you're not performing to the expectations I require.
Yeah, or even like edit these 10 articles for this much money. And you can do it however long you want to. Like if it takes you 2 hours, great. But if it takes you 30 hours, also great. Like I'm going to pay you the same. It's to your benefit to do it quicker. That might work. I think your mic just shut off.
What about now?
Ah, there we go.
I keep messing with this darn button, and I need to stop.
I'm playing with this ledger here. You might be able to hear it on the thing, but I've been playing with it the whole time. Like it's like a little switchblade. Not really, but.
So that's a goal. Like I said, once I get to that point, it would be cool to show the fruition and like the process of that. But right now, it's just I got to do the work. I got to get the articles in, and like that's just the season I'm at the moment.
Which, by doing the work, like I said, I have a graph of how many words you've written each month. Your mind is gonna be blown when I share this. Mean?
So you've been keeping track of me this whole time, TJ?
I have.
Wonderful. Did you hear that?
Yeah, what was that? It sounded like a spaceship going off outside your.
Probably felt like. Yeah, no, this month's gonna be wild. Next month, if I can keep it going, it's gonna be. I also have a honeymoon next month, so that might toss down some. Maybe I can get her to send me some money for a writer while we're on.
That conversation sounds like a fun one.
Yeah, but we're at 55 minutes. This has been good. You guys can tell us if you've enjoyed this more conversational type of podcast, or we're not exactly teaching throughout it. It feels more fluid and more, I want to say intimate. I'll say fluid. And then TJ, if you want to break into the recap of what we talked about.
I'll do that in a minute. By the way, I'm not betting that there's going to be very many people that make it to this far in the podcast, but if you do, we appreciate you. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, and we'll continue making this content. But by the way, if you've made it this far listening to my scratchy voice, it doesn't sound scratchy, does it? It feels kind of scratchy. Thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us. Wrapping this up. Well, now I got sirens around my house too, so this is interesting. Wrapping it up, I think I'm in November. I'm gonna try to post 4 YouTube videos that are in the style of like tutorials, just to see how that works. So we've tested a bunch of stuff. Like we tested income reports, worked great. You tested a new topic. It's now working great. So now I want to try like tutorial style things to see if it can grow the channel even more. I've noticed these podcast episodes are not growing the channel. They do work well if someone finds an interesting video like our income reports and then watch the podcast. But the podcast itself isn't really, nobody's searching up DoubleCommaDreams Podcast yet. But so I do want to try to make 1 video per week in November. I think there's 4 weeks in November. Sometimes it's weird and they're like split up weird, but so that's going to be kind of my goal. Do you have any goals, or are you focusing on your niche site?
I'm interested. We should talk about expectations of the channel next podcast.
That's a good point, because I did start off by saying I was going to start a content creation LLC. So
yeah, because I come to the podcast as like, I'm ready to have a conversation with you. And if people want to listen to how our blogs are going, and like, yeah, I see you trying other things and I'm fine with trying other things, but I'm also like, hey, like I'm doing this for fun, like something where I'm not super stressed out on it. Cause we had a conversation about that one night. So
that's true.
We can talk about that more.
That'd be a good conversation actually, to have that on an episode. Yeah.
So my goals is I would love to figure out how to create a short for this darn thing. Not only because it will benefit the channel, but it will benefit the moat I'm trying to create around my brand.
The short, you mean short for YouTube's?
Yeah.
Shorts for YouTube. That was weird.
Yeah. Also, we can also talk about the words we put on things, because I've been, instead of being like, I'm building a niche site, like, hey, I'm building this brand, and like how I'm thinking about it and how I'm thinking about building the brand, what actions am I taking around what I'm saying about it?
That's true.
Because the words I put on it,
I called it a niche site.
Yeah,
you can be like, listen. You can be like, listen here, Theodore. I'm building a brand. I'll work on calling it that.
Okay. No, it's not so much other people calling, but like if I'm like, hey, I'm building a brand, like that's going to start influencing my mind to create more things behind it to build that brand. But,
that's true.
All right,
it's very true.
I'm gonna let you end it, recap, to then put on the beginning. But
all right,
thank you guys for watching.
Yeah, so the way that we're gonna do this, I'm gonna go ahead and basically end the video here, and then I'm gonna do the recap. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you want to watch future episodes. I think somewhere in here we should be like asking them to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or something, but we're not even on Spotify or anything yet. So we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you later.